What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be our wrap-up and summary of everything we've done with this Jeep Liberty to try to correct the rough idle and the intermittent check engine light, which is on off and just very sporadic, very irregular. Now, if you remember, a few months ago we changed the crankshaft position sensor, and at the time it corrected that check engine light. And so when we developed this new check engine light, we decided, well, let's not do the crankshaft position sensor again. Let's try the camshaft position sensor. Apparently those are both on the same circuit, so when it throws a code for the check engine light, it's kind of a crapshoot as to which one you replace will fix the check engine light. Since we're having this intermittent check engine light, we decided let's just do the camshaft, see where it goes. But let's just take a run through on everything we've done so far, okay? So on this Jeep Liberty, we replaced a few things in the front here. We replaced the idle air control valve. Remember, we had an issue with the throttle position sensor. This is the original sensor in it still. Have not changed that, have not gotten it to a mechanic yet. We did all 6 spark plugs. We did a PCV valve, and we did the camshaft position sensor, which is down here on this lower side of the engine. We're going to go ahead and start it up, and obviously this is not the first startup since I've replaced these items. So we're going to start it up here. We're going to take a look at the check engine light, make sure that that stays out. We're going to basically, I want you to look at the idle. I know I don't have a video of before, but I can assure you that the RPMs were up and down, a little bouncy, a little rough, a little hesitation, and a little bit of shake. So we'll take a look at the idle now, and I'll show you how things smoothed out. Alright, so we're in the Jeep now, and I'm going to go ahead and cycle the ignition on. Your check engine light's over here above the ABS light. Check engine lights off. That's about 44 degrees out today, so I think it's going to ride on a high idle just a little bit here while it warms up. Normal idle should be right around 600 RPM. So what I'll do is I'll let this warm up, and then we'll come back in and we'll check out how smooth and consistent the idle is once it gets warmed up. Alright, so we've allowed the engine to warm up to operating temperature. And if you take a look at the tach there, it's holding really steady right at currently 600. I guess it's just a tick above the 600 line, maybe 625, 650 as far as RPMs. I do not have any air conditioning on or anything that would cause a fan to kick on. The cooling fan is not kicked on yet. All of those things can change how high the RPMs are at idle because of the demand on the engine. Now, if I put it into gear, barely a drop. I think it dropped right to 600 even. And back into park, and rock solid, still right at 600. So I do believe that the idle RPM is set at 600 on these Jeep Liberty 3.7s, and it's holding steady. Now, when I talk about a rough idle, it was bouncing like 500, 600, 500, 600, sometimes 700, and there's just no consistency to it. It was just all over the place. So looks like everything we did took care of that problem. And there were a couple other things I was going to replace. I have a new map sensor for it, and I also bought another crankshaft position sensor, even though I did not change it, because again, we changed that a couple months ago. I bought one just to keep on hand, just in case we were having that check engine light issue. Then I would replace it again, since I just replaced the camshaft position sensor. So yeah, it looks like everything worked out pretty well. If I had to guess, I would say the rough idle issues were attributed to the spark plugs and the idle air control valve. The IAC valve was really crusty. The PCV valve was a little gunked up, but I don't know how much that comes into play with your idle and how smoothly the engine operates. And the map sensor I did not replace. Again, that seemed a little more technical than I thought it would be, because you have to remove part of the AC compressor and remove the serpentine belt, and I just didn't want to get wrapped up into all that. So I figured I would try what I had access to, see if it worked, and it worked. Now, the check engine light, I'm going to attribute that to the camshaft position sensor. Now that that's not illuminated anymore, I would think that that had something to do with it, but I could be wrong. I have no idea. I mean, one of the other things to consider changing would be your oxygen sensor. Now, these Liberties have 4 oxygen sensors. They have an upstream, which is before the catalytic converter, and there's a left and a right. And they have a downstream, which is after the catalytic converter. Again, a left and a right. I did not change those, but it seems like we're doing okay. So I have no complaints about this, and I think it all worked out pretty well. There you have it, guys. We just finished a series on the Jeep Liberty, and I hope you all enjoyed that. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know, and I hope you guys consider subscribing and join us further adventures. Take care now. Bye-bye.